I'm Nick von Wackerbarth, and you're listening to the VonDubCast. If you don't want to listen to me gap in the intro and you want to skip right to the interview, skip about 10 minutes. Before you do, please consider doing one of these couple things that really helps out the show. Following the social medias for the VonDubCast, subscribing, and leaving a review. If you could do those things, that'd be awesome. Also, give me a subscription on the YouTube channel. That'd be great too. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 88 of the VonDubCast. My guest today is Hunter Mcwellum. He's a young kid from Slave Lake, Alberta. I've known his family for a long time, but I hadn't seen Hunter in probably 15 years before we sat down to do this. And the last time I saw him, he was just crawling around on the floor, funnily enough. And around Christmas time, I was out golfing with my dad in Phoenix, and we put on this song that I saw that Hunter Mcwellum released a song. Let's try it out. And it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And then, over the months, I just kept playing it because I really liked the tune. And sure enough, just lately he released, I think 3 more songs, maybe even 2 songs and a remix of the first one he did, or a remaster, I believe is what he called it. We discussed it on the podcast to hear all about it. And again, just really good music, really good sound. And you could tell that he's chasing something special here. And it was so much fun to come in and chat with him about it and see what goes into chasing a dream like that. And it was so refreshing to see at such a young age what a good outlook or point of view he had on the whole thing, and just had really thought out a lot of the pitfalls and things that can kind of trip you up in chasing a dream like that. And he seems to have really thought it out and put a lot of preemptive thought behind it. And I just think that is so interesting, because when I was 18, 19, like he is, I was not doing shit like that. I was just riding by the seat of my pants, doing whatever my parents told me to do, go to university, do this, do that. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And to see him be so locked in and mature about this at such a young age, it really highlights why he's able to put out amazing music like he is, and able to really handle the pressure that he's been put under. It was interesting to me. I didn't really know what I was going to get. All I knew going into this one was that he comes from a great family and that I really enjoyed his music. But the episode turned into a lot more than that, and it was a lot of fun. I can't thank Hunter enough for coming over to my parents' old place in Slave Lake at the just before the golf tournament that you guys probably heard about in the intro of the last podcast there, where my voice is probably just as rough, because not only was I a bit of a drunken mess that weekend, but holy man, did we do it again this one. We're out in BC for my sister's wedding, and it was the most magical 2 days I've ever had. I say 2 days is because being up till 4 a.m. the night of the wedding, partying on into the night, I decided to get up early, pack up the wedding stuff with my family still hammered, get through the hangover, and then we went and had this amazing little party thing after. Just had some people over to celebrate a little bit more, and ended up going out till 4 a.m. again. Which I have not done stuff like that in a long time. My body is not accustomed to it like I would have been maybe a few years ago when I was living in Lister. But sometimes you just got to compete, and we competed this weekend. So apologies if I sound like I ate, hot coals or something, because my throat does not sound good. I can hear it in my headphones right now. It is just scratch crackly, but it was so worth it. I would give up my voice a million times over for a weekend like that. It was just both nights, just start to finish, magic with magical people. I think you guys have heard me talk about, since this podcast started, how much I lamented the loss of dancing through COVID, and how much I just wanted to dance and just take a dance floor and tear it to pieces. And we did it. You know what, folks? We did it. And I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to do it with. The wedding party all day was just such good people I knew, people I just got to know for that day. But Courtney and Liam really are special people, and they surround themselves with special people, and that was just so highlighted throughout the whole weekend. And just everyone felt at home, and it was just such a family feel, and just something that we'd been missing for a long time for obvious reasons, but just you almost forget how sweet it is when you can have it. And I hope that you all get to experience something like that soon, and can reconnect with those people and really find the people that are important and tie one on with them. I know it sounds silly, but that's important, celebrating, just letting things go buck wild for a bit with people that you love, where it's safe to do so, where there's going to be no drama and everybody's just pure love and no self-consciousness, right? Like everybody's out on the dance floor busting whatever move they want with no second thoughts. That is just such a special place, and I just needed that. I needed it so goddamn badly, and it was so amazing to get it. And I feel really good about that. I feel like that was something that I didn't realize how much I needed that weekend. I mean, the weekend in Slave for the golf tournament was very cathartic in a different way. And I enjoyed that too, but just something about getting on the dance floor. I know this probably sounds silly, but there's so much power in dance. There's actually therapies that use dance. Like if you want to look into something with that's kind of weird and sounds hippy dippy, but actually has some really powerful ideas behind it. It's ecstatic dance therapy. It's kind of about getting you into a state where you can just throw your body around to the music of just not even dances, of just like letting your body do whatever you want without any self-consciousness. And just, it's amazing how much of a transformative experience that can be. And I'd never even heard of this, but I had an experience like that when I went to Europe when I was 23 years old for that month, and just partying my way through. And I loved to dance since I was a kid. I would dance around the house. I was just always dancing, always busting moves, but I was so self-conscious. I never wanted anyone to see me. And if I was dancing, I had to be borderline blackout. But on this trip, I didn't know anybody and I didn't care. So I just danced my heart out and just got to see the experience of being that guy on the dance floor. It's getting everyone else hyped and just having so much fun, not caring. And it was so infectious and I just loved it. And it really, this is going to sound cheesy to say, but it probably changed who I was. Like just that experience in itself. And it, ever since then, there hasn't been a dance floor that can keep me off it. Fuck. I mean, I really put some miles on those dance moves in the time since that, whereas it took me so much to get out there, you couldn't get me off after it. And then to lose it for 2 years due to COVID, I was really itching for it. It's funny, of all the things I missed, I think dancing might be top of the totem pole. So it was great to get dancing. If that all sounds silly to you, it might be silly, but for those people, I'm sure there's gonna be maybe one or two people listeners right now that are just like smacking their fucking steering wheel in their car being like, yes, Nick, I agree, I feel this. So I don't even want to start naming people that either reconnected with over this wedding this weekend or new people that I met that were amazing, because I don't want to leave anybody out. And I'm just going to tell whoever's, oh, little Chloe, come here, Chloe. Okay, guys, new story. Little Chloe. I thought somebody was coming in the trailer while I'm recording this, but they were just putting a dog in. And this is my little dog, Coco, come here. This is my little dog, Chloe, who we've had for 13 years. She was always my little baby when I lived at home. She's a 4-pound dog. I can fit in the palm of my hand. And since I got my new puppy, Ahsoka, Chloe does not want anything to do with me. She doesn't want to let me pet her. She doesn't want to come near me because I am now a traitor. I've brought a big dog into our house and she is scared of everything and is just so terrified. And this weekend, or this week earlier when I came up to Penticton, I didn't have the dog. The dog was still with my girlfriend in Vancouver for a couple days. And also got to reconnect with my dog, guys. For 4 months now, I've had no snuggles with my childhood dog because she just wanted nothing to do with me, and it broke my heart. And this weekend, she, for whatever reason, just a couple days without the dog, has been letting me pet her, let me pick her up, giving me snuggles. Oh, I've just been soaking it in because this dog is just getting so old and so decrepit. I just was like, no, you can't shut me out right at the end. I need all the snuggles I can get, close. So I'm just glad they put her in because now I get to tell that story about why I love you so much. Come here. I just talked shit about how you're going to let me cuddle you and now you walk away. Typical. Absolutely typical. Yeah, so I'm excited for this episode. I'm excited for things to come. What are all those things I always forget to write down and I have to say every time? Listen to the podcast. Tell people about the podcast. Share the shit, download the shit, subscribe to the shit, review the shit. Really, I'm getting better every time, guys. Every week. I know I should just write it down once and just have it on my phone and not have to remember, but I like to just wing it and I like to shoot from the hip. Oh, that was the other part of this. Sorry. I had to MC the wedding, and as you guys know, I don't like to organize too much stuff, so I just tried to give myself as little notes and reminders as I could and just speak from the heart, and it was risky biscuits. The worst thing on the podcast is having those moments where like you can't think of what to say next. And I have this sheet of paper of those questions, but when you're in front of a wedding of all these people, that moment is quite different. And it didn't happen many times. Like, and I probably, the only person that noticed them was me. And I kind of, probably people just thought I was getting emotional because I was a huge crybaby, fucking bawling my eyes out all day, all 2 days. Even when we're done with the wedding, we're out at the bar at night. I just kept thinking about how special it was and how everything came together, and I'd be crying again, which there's nothing wrong with. And I think that's a good lesson for everybody else. Just let it go. Enjoy it. Feel those feelings. There's no sense in guarding yourself off against the peaks of experience, right? Like the peaks of experience are going to be emotional. And if you're so scared to be emotional that you close yourself off, you're never going to have those experiences that are at the top. So maybe we'll end on that. Go subscribe to the shit. Do all that. really enjoy this episode. Like, I enjoyed recording it, and let me know what you think. Great guy from Slave Lake, and download the shit out of his tunes. Go tell him, send him a DM, tell him, hey, I love your shit. If you love his shit, bump it, throw it on Snapchat, throw it on an Instagram story. Spread the message, spread the word, spread the love. That's what we want to do here. So go check him out. Go Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. Go blow this kid up. Tell him you heard him on here. You love what you heard. You love the fire that he's got within him, and you are just as proud of him and excited to see where he takes it as I am. And I'm sure you're going to be right there once you listen to this episode. And I can't wait to have Hunter on again in the future too, and also Hunter's dad, because he's a really interesting cat that I just need to get around to it to get him on the podcast too. So. All right, I will see you guys on the outro, and I'll probably see you next week because I don't think I have any episodes recorded in this BC time here to fill in a double episode. So it'll probably just be one a week until I'm back. All right, enjoy. Beautiful. Well, thanks for coming to talk with me today, Hunter. It's a big deal. I'm a big fan.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So just to let you know, kind of my story, you know, like I know your family quite well, and probably the last time I'd seen you, really thought about you, to be honest, was when you dropped that first song around Christmas. And we got a dog coming in. What are you doing here? You got to go upstairs. Hi. We're teeing off. We're down in Phoenix, and we're teeing off the first tee. And I just see on social media something, Hunter Mcwellum released a song. I was like, what? So I played for the boys. Fucking bops. I was like, holy shit, this guy's got some skills. And I was just listening to it, kind of thought maybe it was just something one-off. But then later on, our dads must have been talking, and he was saying like, no, he's lined up a trip to Vegas. Like, this is a real deal. He's actually chasing something. And, you know, I love when people chase something that they're after. Yeah. So from that moment, I just been watching and listening, looking out for any more news. And then when I saw you do that last drop of songs and they were awesome again, I was like, oh shit, Ingo, you got to reach out to Joey and get me this kid's number, because I got to talk to him. So I'm curious. I'm sure that's where kind of I picked back up with you, but I imagine there was a lot of behind the scenes that went into that first song. Like, how long were you working on it? Like, what goes into something like that? And then like, when did you decide to release it? Like, was there a big plan behind it, or you just kind of let her buck?
No, the first song, there was no plan really. It was all just to do something for fun. I just gave it a shot. So I started that song. It didn't take this much time, but I started it probably almost a year before it came out. Yeah. And then I picked back up on it around probably October, November, and then it came out on New Year's. Oh, cool. So yeah, that's how that one came about.
So then, like, in terms of like the you clearly have some knowledge about what goes into that stuff at that point too. Like, where did you pick up like how to make a song? Did you have help? Like, was it just you kind of messing around in the backyard, or did you have someone that kind of helped walk you through some of the trickier parts, or what?
No, it was just me. Well, my brother, he's a drummer, so he's gave me a little bit of insight to music and some tips and stuff there, but mostly with the digital music, the way I do it in my DAW, I've learned everything from YouTube and the internet, and I've spent so many hours just grinding, looking for music and how I can do it on my own. So I've figured out how to mix, how to master a little bit, more of the technical stuff, and then the songwriting. I didn't really practice at all how to do that. It just kind of
comes naturally. Yeah, that's more of the talent side, and the rest of it is all find out how to take that talent and build it into something, right? That's where I was really curious about, is just like, because I know just from the peripherals and talking to a couple people on the podcast, you know, the reason I know what a DAW is now is from that thing I was showing you earlier with Nick Walker, Side Chick, right? Like, I didn't even know what that was. I use them for the podcast, right? Like I use them myself, but I just didn't know what some of those terms are. And it's awesome to see what people can do with just the internet now, right? You can dive on into it. That was like me when I learned guitar. I just went on YouTube and just kind of you follow around, and if you put enough effort into it, you can be rewarded with it.
Yeah, for sure.
How is that going from that first song, and then, you know, the last songs you dropped, and we were just chatting a bit before, it sounds like you got some more in the can. How has that progressed? Do you notice yourself now that you've released a song and you moved on to the next one? It's like, are those skills really leveling up? Is there things that you wish you knew now that
totally. All the the preset, well, now I just have like a preset, so when I go in to make a song, I have all my effects and everything is all ready to go. So it's a lot smoother of a process, but it definitely took the hours to get that down. Yeah. That's what a bunch of people have told me, because you know, I'm really proud of this podcast, but probably the audio and the
the hardware side of it and actually making it sound crisp is probably my weakest area. And so many people have told me, just make a preset, man. Just like go in and do it once and you'll all have it. I'm like, well, can you come help me make a preset? Because I have zero skills in this stuff and I just do not have the time to invest to learn. Because I know it's a lazy excuse, because with you have YouTube right there, there's no excuse if you don't know something, right? You can figure it out if I really had the time to. So I know that I'm just trying to be lazy on my end. So then here's maybe another question, because I was surprised. I didn't know, I've played with your brother. I know it's musical family, but I was blown away. I had no idea that this was even something that you were cooking up in the background. How like, was this something like, did your friends all know that you were doing this a lot? Was it kind of a surprise to a lot of people? How was the reaction when you dropped that first song?
Yeah, I think the surprise more of it was that it came out on Apple and Spotify. Because prior to that, I think probably when I was 16, I released 2 songs on SoundCloud that were definitely underproduced and just not my best work. So
start somewhere.
Yeah, they knew I was working on it though. So after that, I just moved away from that, and I took a long time to really understand what I was doing and make sure it sounded like it should sound when it came out on Apple. So they knew it was coming, and the response to it was really good. Yeah. Everyone was bumping it on New Year's. Yeah,
no shit, man. Well, usually how it goes, you want your first song to be good, but because it takes trajectory. I was so happy when you mentioned that you're dropping more songs. I was so pumped because of how good that first song was. I was like, oh, if it's half as good, I'm in, because that was awesome, right? I just think that's such a cool experience to have that springboard. And I would imagine it would make it a little bit more exciting to kind of chase the next one when you get a good little dopamine hit on the first one like that. So then, tell me about the trip down to Vegas. How did that come to be? Was that kind of in the works when you're going to release a song? Was that after, with the response to the song? Is that what that came out of? I'm kind of curious there.
Yeah, it was after the song came out. A guy from the States, he's from California. He heard my song. He used to be a manager in the music scene, and he knows a lot of the ins and outs of the music industry. So he just got in touch with me and said, I think you have something here, and I really like it, and I want to see what else you can do. And I have an opportunity in May, or it was supposed to be earlier in the year and got pushed back a little bit. So but he wanted me to come out there. So I said, for sure, I'll do it.
Tell me where and when I'll be there kind of thing.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So then you go down there, how many days were you down there? How many different things? Because I saw you did, not only the performance, but you were doing some radio stuff I saw too, and you're kind of all over the town there. Was that just kind of, you got there and whatever was set up for you, or did you line any of that up? How did that all go? I'm just curious about the whole trip.
Yeah, it was all lined up pretty much before we got there. We were there for around 5 days, I believe. So first we did I did the performance, got that out of the way.
Nice and early. Hey, so you didn't have to stress over it.
Oh, and then, beautiful. The day after, there was a Cannabis Talk 101 podcast
I saw that too.
That I was on. Yeah, that happened. And then also we did a photo shoot, and that's where I got the cover for the new songs. So it was all set up and it went well.
That's wicked. So then that first performance, you did that right away and you kind of got it off your back. I would, if you could have planned the trip, I'm sure you would have planned it that way, because that's a lot of stress to take on. But I'm curious about that live performance, because when I was chatting with Nick, he was talking about that it's very different making a song in your house and perfecting it, and then performing it live is a different thing. And he was, kind of, more so hitting the buttons and that, and more mixing, you're actually performing a song. How was the nerves? How was the experience? Were you just so excited that it kind of overtook it? Were you trying not to throw up? Take me through that actual, right before the show, did you go there early and stay in the green room, right? Did you just roll up and roll right into it? I'm curious about that day and what that was like, because I can't imagine that would be something many people have experienced.
Yeah, it was crazy. I just tried to, leading up to it, not think about it too much, because I knew if I did, I would definitely get in my head. And, So that whole day I kind of just hung out in the hotel room till it was time to go. Nice. And when I got down there, I did the sound check, and the sound check went really well. So that definitely cleared up any doubts I had.
Yeah, a couple butterflies flew out of your stomach at that point. Yeah.
So then when I came back, when I got on the stage though, there was the nerves. It definitely hit. So. But it's so much different being on stage than in the studio, because, you spend all the time working on the song and everything about it in and out, but then you hear it on the stage and it just kind of sounds not different, but it's just you're hearing it in a different environment. So
it's a different wrinkle to it, hey?
Yeah.
And what kind of live experience did you have leading up to that?
None,
hey?
None.
How? So it was your first time ever like playing live in front of him? And how many people are there, you figure?
I think somewhere around 800.
Holy shit, maybe. Man. Yeah. Man, that is wild. I mean, hey, but like oftentimes with shit like that, jumping right into the deep end is the best way to do it, right? Because like, you know, not every show is going to be 800 seats, but now you've had that experience, and now, you know, to even if you get more on a traditional path where you maybe a couple 100-seater or something you get to play at, like, you've done bigger, and now you're stepping back into it. That is awesome. That's crazy how it all came together too.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man. So then when you got back from that, was that when the pressure was on, you're really itching to get some more music made and stuff, or were you kind of already had a couple in the can at that point? I'm just curious, kind of in between that and this latest drop of tunes you just did, like what was that like?
I've been working on a lot prior to that, and I had a bunch in the can, but usually I just have like hundreds of songs going, but
oh, that's awesome.
I'll come back to them and get them going again. And so
is that something like, there's what I'm learning with not only the couple episodes I've done with kind of more musical people, but actually I was starting up another business account, and just to happen to be the guy at the bank that was doing all my business setup. He makes music and has made hundreds of songs and is really into this, and especially on the producing side. And he kind of was telling me about what all goes into them. And I'd never really realized this is making a song. There's so much more goes into it. Like when I imagine making a song, I thought, you know, you'd play the instruments and kind of the vocals, and that's all that goes into it. But these days with the kind of the more electronic sound, you're building like you're piece by piece and adding layers and compression and all this stuff. So do you just have a song where you kind of get it to a point where maybe you stall out, or you fall out of love with it and you just kind of leave it, and then you'll come back and add more stuff to it? So you got like a whole catalog of songs. So there's probably, wow. So then how long, the couple songs you just released, how long were those ones kind of cooking around? I know the first one you said was kind of a year of on off working on it. What about these ones? Are those ones that were kind of older songs that you just brought back? Was one of them kind of newer? How were those in the order?
No, they were both brand new after that song, because after that I just had some momentum going, and I was in a groove. So Livin' I made probably in February, and I finished it within like a month. Nice. And then Money, that was also not, I think that was even quicker. I think that one was like a week maybe. Do you find it gets easier each time now? Yeah, it does, but every song's different. It's got new challenges kind of that pop up. That makes sense. Wow, that is fucking interesting. I love that shit. I get such a kick out of, even though it's not something I'm familiar with at all, somebody like being that passionate with something, chasing something like that, fuck, does it just get me fired up, man. I love it. So you're working on these songs, you always got some on the go, and you're finding newer ones. Is that ever hard to, or I'm trying to find the right way to ask this, like what makes you decide whether like I'm going to go in and make a new song, or I'm going to go in and go through the other ones and maybe find one that needs a little bit of love? Like what makes you decide on a certain day what you're going to? Is it just kind of how you feel, or kind of? Yeah, it's just, I'll just be like scrolling on my computer, going through stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm liking this right now. Then I'll start working on it, picking away at it. And if it keeps going, if there's momentum there, I'll just try and finish it. Cause when I'm in a creative state, it doesn't last. Like it's a short window. So I try and capture it right there. And, it doesn't always work like that, but I try to finish it as quick as I can. But that's amazing to hear that at your age, that you have that understanding, because this is something of just listening to the podcast and listening to people that I respect talk about whatever that is. I think this applies to a million things about just there's a million names for it, the muse or whatever, is that creative state that you get into. And like you said, it's finite. You have to, when it's there, you have to capture it. But it's so great to hear that, because I feel like so many of the people I listen to, the traditional stories, they go in, they have that talent, they have that drive, but they don't really understand what it is. They either try and just sit in that studio and do it, in this context, the studio, but just sit and grind their head against the wall until, you know, as long as they do 12 hours a day, it doesn't matter, but they don't really realize what things they can do to get into that right mindset and find that really, you might be working less, but you're doing really efficient work when you're doing it. And I think that's really important in any, artistic venture. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm kind of trying to encapsulate that. But where I'm going with this, I'm curious, so far, it might be too early to tell, but have you found things just personally, like in your routine, things that help bring you into that state and get you into that music making mindset where you're feeling creative in that? Do you have anything that you started to find? Because I'm sure as you go on, you'll start to accumulate that and find it, but you're pretty early on into the journey. It might be too early for that. I think it's a little too early. I would say the whole Vegas trip, and just seeing that I created that. Yeah. I think that definitely got me in a creative mindset. So I think,
Yeah, so just more trips to Vegas, pretty much. Whenever you get you just got to go play an 800 seater, right? That'll fire the juices up. Oh, that's awesome. And so now, do you ever like record in a studio, or is this all at the house, like, or how does that work?
Yeah, I built a studio.
Oh shit!
Yeah, me and my mom made it actually.
Nice.
Probably last summer around July or June.
Yeah.
And so I've been working out of that for around a year.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Fuck, that's wicked, man. You have to send me some pictures. I would be curious because, man, I mean, just personally, I've been kicking around the idea of building some sort of studio, but you never know how much you want to invest into it, where you're going to be, and all that. But I'm always itching to get a couple more ideas for it. That's crazy. Something else I was curious about, just being a younger guy and coming up in the age where, I mean, the internet your whole life, right? That kind of, that little thing we talked about earlier about having kind of YouTube on your side and getting to see all this and learn. You have no excuse but your own if you haven't learned something that you need to learn, because you have all these resources at your hands, right? Which is, I don't know, I feel like I'm right on the edge of that, because that kind of came in when I was a little bit old. I was old enough to recognize when that happened. But how I was thinking about it in this area is, for a long time, music was kind of a gated thing where you had to really follow this one trajectory. You had to know the right people to kind of get in. And it's also, it was also very opaque. It wasn't very transparent about how these things work. Unless you were in the industry, you didn't really know how these things work. And that's where you hear all these stories about these young musicians kind of getting chewed up and spit out throughout this industry. But it's gotten a lot more transparent. And I'm curious for you, how you see it, because the way I see it is, there's a lot of negatives that you get to see. You get to kind of see the darker side of it, but you can also take that as a positive, because now you're aware of it and you can kind of keep your eyes out for it. And, but it's also kind of scary to know kind of what you're getting into. I'm curious for you, of just knowing so much and having the internet at your hands. Do you ever think about the industry, or are you just trying to kind of have fun and let all that stuff come when it comes?
Yeah, I think about it a little bit. Just seeing how other artists, like, there's a lot of manipulation with record deals and stuff like that. And as soon as you start getting attention, there's a dark side there, like you said. But for now, I'm just worried about making the music, and what'll come will come of it. So
for sure. Yeah. And I think on the flip side of that too, is it's amazing to look around and see these artists blazing their own trails, and to see that where if you maybe started this journey even like 10 years ago, the amount of options in front of you of ways to take it are so much more limited right now. Like, just the invention of SoundCloud alone has changed the game so much, right? And opened so many doors. And the fact that you can just get your own shit onto Apple Music, right? Like, that was... Yeah,
it's a lot easier to be independent nowadays.
It is, it is. And that's kind of where I was curious, because, you see all the dark side of the industry and stuff, but there's also this opportunity where you can avoid that altogether if you want to. And there's going to be tension always, as you, whatever path you pick, those things are always going to come in, even if you decide to go independent. That machine of the music industry is still going to be there, and they're probably going to be calling you ever more louder, right? The farther along that path you get. And what I love is to see that transparency of what the internet comes is now. You would be armed at each point to know what you're going to get from them and all the pitfalls that come with it. And you can compare that against, well, how am I doing? I know on this independent path, I know exactly how I'm doing, what kind of money I'm making. And then they come in with the golden offer of what they think it's going to be. You actually have something to compare to, which always breaks my heart to think of these artists coming up however long ago that they had no idea what they're offering, right? They just have to kind of take it on a wish and a prayer that this is actually what they're offering. So I think that's just awesome to see, what is, what's coming up there for younger artists, right? That's really cool for me to see.
Yeah, it's so much easier to market yourself, and like, you can make a TikTok.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
People blow up off of that, and they have a career. So
it's wild, hey? That's the one thing. So then, here's another thing I can ask you. It's just, an old fogey like me, when I think about music and what it takes to make it, and that is probably a lot different. What do you think is the most important things for like a younger artist that's trying to like create their brand in that? Is it, finding the right social medias? Is it like a certain vibe? I'm curious to see what a younger guy would think is important that goes into stuff like that of growing. I mean, we could talk about it in the frame of music, but I think it all kind of applies to whatever you're chasing, right? It's just about growing your own brand. Like, what are the big things? Is it just being on the right platforms? Is it finding your own voice? What is it?
I would just say be authentic.
Yeah, like, that's a big thing.
You can't fabricate it. You can't be someone you're not. And I see that a lot. There's a lot of artists who try and follow a trend or be the next, someone who's already big, but you got to just be yourself, because there's already someone doing that. No one's going to be doing what you're doing if you stay true to what you want.
Exactly. And not only is there already people doing that, but just what we talked about earlier of the skills you develop, they've got 15 years doing that, right? They got a lot of experience behind them. If you're coming in 5 years, if they're keeping on doing it, they're always going to have that extra 15 years on you, right? You might get close, but they're always going to be getting better too. So you might as well pick something that you can be yourself and find that. And I think different mediums have different kind of qualifications, right? Because a podcast, it's quite hard not to be, honest and true to who you are. You can do it for half an hour, but you start doing 2 hour, 3 hour interviews over time, you're going to kind of let it out. So I don't really have to worry about that myself. It's pretty, if people are tuning in, they're getting authentically me all the time. That's all I can do, right? Because it'd be so hard to not try and do that. But then with something like music, I don't know. I was talking about this with that Nick Walker about his personality. He's such a goofy guy, and you can almost hear it in his music. His authentic self of who he is comes through in the music. I don't know you as well to be able to see that, but I just find that really cool that music can tell a story like that and be a part of who you are. Do you already see that in your music, like pieces of like your personality coming out in it? Is that something that you think will kind of come more as you get further in? You're just kind of seeing what sticks right now, or are you already kind of feeling that yourself?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what sticks, and I think I found it in a sense of the sound, but I'm not sure. And the message. I think my message is always just to be as positive as I can be with the circumstances in your life, and just always having a mindset that you can choose how your life is going to go and what's going to come of it. So,
which is a great message. And I think but it's also a scary message for some people, right? Because I think that's very true, especially kind of going with what we've already said about the resources that you have with the internet and all that. That scares a lot of people because when you realize that the only thing holding you back is you, it's hard to blame other people, right? When you realize that you have all this stuff and you could do it all and it's on you if you do it or not. That's kind of scary for a lot of people, but I think that's a great message to send and to prove that people, hey, if you do chase it, these are the results. This is what you can achieve, right? And if you just stay quiet, never take no risks, you're never going to achieve something like that, right? That's awesome. So is that kind of something like when you set out to start making music, to have a message to it, right? Because not every musician has to have a message, right? Some people just want to make some music, but oftentimes that does accompany, and I think it's almost a conscious decision not to put some sort of message in, right? It's hard not to. And if you are, you should think about it. Is that something you kind of had in mind before you released any songs, or is that something like as you release more, you're starting to see of kind of build what that message is going to be?
Yeah, I had it in mind, but it just kind of came through. Like I couldn't go into the studio and write something that wasn't real. So it's just like it was already there. Yeah,
I got you. Yeah, it'd be a little inauthentic to try and go in and sing about stealing cars and shit. It's just not really gonna line up. I got you. What else other than music, like what are your other loves? Like what keeps you busy when you're not in the studio? Because I think a lot of it too is it's exciting when you find something that you want to chase it all the time, but you also need those resets of just forgetting about it and just resetting your brain. Like, it's just hanging out with friends. Like, what are you into other than making music?
Sports. I've always played. I played hockey since I was 3 years old, and golf.
Oh yeah, big golfer.
Yeah. Baseball, everything. And being outdoors. I like quadding. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Typical slave, hey?
Yeah. Good old Slave Lake.
Oh, all that shit. No, that takes me back. It's funny because that lines up with everything I used to do too. And then I went to school and you add in so many things. Unless you still have all those things, you just add in all that. So now going to that level, is this something that you think you just want to chase and kind of put everything else on hold? Is that kind of your progression right now? Do you have anything else in the air that you're kind of trying to work on as well? Or how's that going?
Yeah. I was going to, I got accepted to NAIT for business administration.
Oh, nice.
I do think I'm going to put that on hold, and I think I'm going to chase this because I think there's a window. I think I'm young. I think it's the right time to be chasing it and not waiting and putting it off. So.
For sure. And it's, I think that is something where you kind of get the best of both worlds, because if you chose to, you could chase that as well because it's going to work with it, right? Like that's something I often think of with this podcast of what are things I could also chase that aren't podcasting specific, but will help me with it, right? And one of the things I had was streaming, because it's not a podcast, but you're still having a conversation. Maybe it's with a chat, right? You're doing a little bit different things, but it's still, some of those skills apply. And there's a lot of business in music, right? People, you would wish it wouldn't be that way, but it is. And getting a little bit of that business knowledge is going to just help you along the way. So like you said, if you think this is the right time to just, buckle down and chase this thing hard, and you can grab that along the way, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's so awesome to hear that you already think of these things and measuring those things out, because I think people are so caught on, what is the track? What am I supposed to do? Oh, okay. I'm at this age. I'm supposed to go to school now, so I'm going to do that. Even if the right call for them and what they need at that moment is to, put that off and chase something. It's great to know that you're thinking about it. And another piece of that too is probably having the support to do that, right? Like, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but just knowing your family a little bit, right? I think they're pretty supportive, right? And to let you do that. So they have no qualms with letting you chase this dream and putting school off, and that they support you kind of whatever you want to do, sort of thing.
100%.
Yeah. That goes a long way to have, hey?
Yeah.
Is there anyone kind of, I'm sure your family is a huge piece of this, but is there anyone else that kind of always helped you along the way, that kind of gave you a feeling of, I can do this, and that little bit of support, like any of your friends or something that kind of made you think, I think I can give this a shot?
Yeah, all of my friends just hype me up.
Yeah,
say,
you need
keep
that.
Going, man. Like, it's only a matter of time. So
that's awesome.
And I believe that. I think I don't expect it to be super quick, and I know it's going to be a long road, but I think I can do it, and I'm going to keep going for it.
Fucking right. I think you can too, and I think that's the only way. If you're going to do it, that's the only mindset you can have, and that is the belief that you can that you need to have. If you're not, you might as well hang it up right now. So it's great to hear that you already have that. Oh, that's awesome. I'm curious. I know we kind of talked about, the individuality that you need in something like this, and you need to bring your own voice. But you're obviously going to be influenced by people, right? This podcast is heavily influenced by, I could name 9 or 10 people right now that this is not a carbon copy of, but a little twist on what they're all doing. Is there anybody for you that you really look up to that is kind of maybe one of the musical tastes that you maybe even grew up on, is just like slightly influenced, or maybe someone today that you like their style and go after, even if it's something not even musically that you pull from them?
Kanye West is my inspiration in music. I started listening to him when I was like 7, 8 years old. My mom just started playing him in the car, and I was like, that was the first time hearing hip hop, so it just didn't sound like stuff you hear on the radio. So
it hits you a little different.
Yeah, it does. It was something new, so I liked it. And after that, I just loved hip hop, and I wanted to eventually start making my own, and I did. So
that's awesome.
I just love that he's everything. He's a producer, he's a performer, like he's got the whole package, and he's with the song 100% of the time. He's like in the studio, mixing, mastering, producing, rapping,
which people listening might not understand, right? There's a lot that goes into music, right? Like some artists just are there to sing the tracks, right? And then somebody takes the rest and assembles that song completely together. Whereas Kanye was known almost more for his producing and his ability in the studio than his actual I don't even separate that in musical talent, because clearly that is a musical talent as well. But like, I'd say that is a huge person to chase and to take influence from, because he is known for that, of all those other sides of maybe the less flashy sides of music, right? That still just as important, right? That's the foundation that makes any good song is that stuff, but to understand it too, because then here's maybe a way I can ask this into a question. Now, knowing that of all that stuff that goes into it, right? Like the producing, the mixing, the mastering, do you think that's something for your whole career that you will keep a hand on, kind of Kanye style, where
or do you think I'll always be involved? I don't think I'll be 100%
doing it all yourself. I
don't think that's realistic. But I think every song I want to be a part of every process, and helping if it's another producer, another engineer. I want to be with them saying, this is how I want it, or me actually doing it. Right.
Because that's just to, make it equivalent to podcasts. It's the same thing. Because right now I'm doing everything, right? Like I record the content, I export into the DAW, right? Do the editing, do all that stuff and put it up there. And it's good to know all that stuff. And eventually in my head though, I know what parts I enjoy. This part, the most enjoyable, right? Like the actual recording, it's awesome. And I think in my head in years future, right? Because same thing, I know it's going to be a long run. I know I'm going to get there, but I know it's not going to be quick. But I think ahead of, at what points could I let go of those? And what I'm so happy about doing it this way and the same way you're doing is to know at least a little bit of understanding of all those pieces, so that eventually, even if I did hire someone to do it, I can still hold them accountable to what it is. They can't say, oh, it's going to cost me $500 to do that. No, I used to do that a couple of years ago. I know it doesn't cost that. And I think that's awesome for music too, because I think so much of the darker side of
the music but any industry, I think this applies for any industry, is just a disparity of knowledge, right? If somebody knows a whole lot more of it and you're coming in, you don't know much, they can really take advantage of it. But if you already know so many of the pieces of the game, especially if you go and get a little bit of business knowledge too, it's way harder for guys to pull shit over.
Yeah, you know what it's worth.
Yeah, you know what it's worth. You know what goes into. Yeah, exactly. And you know what you want it to sound like, right? Like if you say, hey, I want it to sound like this part here doesn't sound, and they go, that's just impossible. You can't do it right. Actually, I know. Yeah. Here, move aside. Let me take control of the keyboard for a sec, right? Like it's just so good to know that shit, because sometimes people are just lazy, or maybe they want to get home and they just don't want to do it. But you can hold that level of expectation of kind of where you want your music to be, right? And I think as long as you do that, you don't need to be doing everything yourself, start to finish. As long as you can hold everyone within that pyramid that goes into it accountable to your standards, that's all you need to keep creating that awesome music.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's wicked. So then what's some of the things you're excited about? What are some of the things upcoming that get you out of bed in the morning to keep chasing this thing that you're excited to do next?
I'm excited to keep releasing music and getting feedback from people and seeing how they respond to it. Yeah. And I'm also excited to be doing some more live performances. Yeah. Hopefully going back to the States and either August, September, sometime around there.
Nice.
Doing some more shows. And
through that same guy there.
Yes.
Oh, nice. So then after that trip, did you hook up with that guy more? Did you discuss more? Just kind of.
Yeah, we're working together.
Nice. That's awesome. And that's a huge step. Again, I know nothing about this. Like I know it, but from what I hear, that is a huge step of just having some sort of foot in the door in the industry, just for things like that, just to, give you a couple opportunities to take it, and it's up to you what you do with you run with them, right? And where you take them. But that's awesome to hear that you already have that, because for so many people, you just see that they can never get past that step, and they just toil away, probably getting better and probably moving forward, but you just don't move forward at the same rate unless you have a couple breaks to kind of push you along.
Yeah, it's huge, because like I'm kind of knowledgeable on the music side of things, but in the actual business world of it, I'm clueless. I've never been in it before. Having someone who's been in it and understands it and can warn me about these things, like you're saying about the manipulation and it's good to have someone like that on my team. Yeah, for sure. Well, you also got your dad. He's a pretty good businessman. I've been watching him do business for a lot of years. He's got a lot of knowledge. Yeah. That's always good to have. It's what I found when I went to university and went to business school. I found that I was already so far ahead of the game just watching my dad and I don't know if you know the Discovers, but Barry Discover work for all those years, and just watching a real businessman. Your dad's the same way. You pick up on so much of that stuff. And when I got to class, it was like, oh, like, they'll be teaching you something. You're like, yeah, that stuff works, but then that's bullshit. That never works in the real world, right? Because you actually get to see it. So I think you'll be surprised. I think even if you don't think you have all that business knowledge, I'm sure just by osmosis, some of that is soaked into you. Yeah, definitely. That's great. So then in terms of being excited to release more songs, what dictates that to you? Are you more of a guy that kind of picks a date of, hey, I'd like to release some music around here? Or is it kind of just finding when you have a good set of couple songs that you want to release? Like, does that dictate it, or how does that work? Yeah, just as soon as the songs come, like I'm not setting out a date to have it done by, because I don't want to rush myself. Yeah, you want to I just want it to be good and polished before it's out. So I'm never going to put something out that I don't feel is 100% ready. Right. That makes sense. Sense. So like, do you have an inkling of when the next tunes are going to come out, or are you still kind of in that phase where you're just sharpening everything up and getting it to that point where before you can even think of that? Yeah, I'm sharpening it up. I'm trying to get, I wanted 10 songs for this year, but that's a little lofty. Yeah. I'm probably going to shoot for 2 more at least. Yeah. Maybe 3. Who knows? It could be 10 still, but it all just depends on. That's a fuck ton more songs than I've ever released. I'll give you that. That's awesome, dude. Thanks. Oh, man. So then you're starting to kind of do some live performances down south of the border. Kind of got hooked up with that guy. Just in terms of like local stuff, like you got anything in the works to even, just start putting on some of your own shows just to get some of that stage experience? Like just like even in Slave here, like playing at, one of the golf tournaments, or at the pub one night, even just to get, because I think that is, you talk about the skill of just working on songs and, having 100 songs on the go. That's how you get to the point where you release music like you are, is having, 100 songs in the bank where you can make those mistakes and come up against those hurdles. I think live performance is the same way, where you get that experience, you get that comfortability. Do you have anything on the table kind of just with your own of doing some smaller shows and getting that? No, not really yet, but like anything, I'll definitely be taking it. And I think, maybe in even the Edmonton area, or just like some festivals. Once they things start opening up again, I'll definitely be doing that. And around town would be cool too, because everybody. And I'd like to come back though to town after I do have some experience, so I could be these are the people I know and I want them to see.
You want to put on a good show for them kind of thing. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. But even like in Edmonton, I'm sure there's tons of stuff that you could line up. And that's, again, what's exciting about kind of this new age of music is you can kind of, whatever you want to make of it, right? If you want to get some stage time, I'm sure you can. It's just about finding the right spots of what you want to do and the right dynamic of the right crowds, right? Not burning out your hometown too early. I think that's probably a good call. I'm sure everyone would support the hell out of you already though, right? Like with the songs you already got, it's pretty, you do a pretty fire little set here, I think.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that people are behind me on it.
Yeah, it probably feels pretty good to know that the town's behind you. Hey, that's awesome. And that's what's so beautiful. A town like Slave Lake, I mean, we got our problems too, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, we support each other. And when someone does something cool, we come out and we rep for it. And that's good to know you got that in your back pocket, right?
For sure. I've got a lot of support from it so far. So
I was curious, one of the things you mentioned earlier was just you're excited to release more music and get more feedback. And that's something I'm curious about because with the podcast, I love feedback and I love hearing from people what they like, what they didn't like. And I have to measure that against my vision and what I want, right? Someone might say like, hey, it's too long, right? Like I don't like 3 hours and I appreciate that. And I know there's gonna be a lot of those people out there, but I really believe in 3 hours. And I think that's, I think there's a lot of power in that. I think a lot of things come with that, right? Not that I have to do it every time, but I like having the opportunity for it. And just because one or two people told me that, I don't want to take that all into consideration, but I don't want to block myself off from their feedback to not find where I can get better. And I'm curious with music because it's so personal and it's so much your feel. How do you deal with feedback in that sense? Is it just kind of don't even listen to the bad, just take in the good kind of thing? Or is it kind of keep your eye out or really measure who it's coming from to see if it holds any water? Like how do you deal with the feedback?
Yeah, I listen to the bad because as a listener, you're not thinking in the same mind as an artist. And as an artist, I have to see everything that goes into it. And I have to know, all the production, all that stuff. So as a normal listener, you're not thinking about that. And you might see a different picture than what I'm seeing.
Right.
And you might just hear what it actually is. And I'm hearing something totally different. So if I can get any feedback from the people who listen to it constantly, and I've listened to it thousands of times, there might be something I still miss, and I can go back for another song with that information and change it.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's a super healthy way to look at it. I mean, I think maybe you're a little further along the path. I'm not the best with negative feedback, so I think I got a ways to work on it. But it sounds like you're doing awesome with it. That's awesome. I'm curious with what you mentioned there. That ring a bell with something else I'd heard a couple of my buddies talk about. In university, tons of my friends got into the rave scene, like going to shows all the time. That was a big thing. And probably, I don't know, 80% of my friends all learned how to DJ, right? They all had their decks, they all had their stuff, and they all talked about the same, going to shows. The more they got into mixing and doing it themselves, when they'd go to shows, they were enjoying it still, but in a different way because that knowledge of what goes into mixing, they'd notice like, oh, that was a bad mix, that was a good mix. And they said like, they still enjoyed the shows, but it was in a very different way. They were hearing the music differently. And I'm curious to you, the further you go into what makes a song, when you hear a new song, has that changed the experience of you as a listener? Now when you're listening to music, now that you know all the different things that go into it and how it's mastered and all that, is that a different experience?
Yeah, because like mastering, you can just totally hear different things, like things like layers in the track that you wouldn't have heard before. They just come out like these last three songs, or Hello wasn't at the start, but now it has been. It was sent to a mastering engineer.
Oh shit!
And like that's more than I can do.
Yeah.
There's things in my own song that I never even heard, and I could hear it. Like it's frequencies. It's like down to a science. Like there's so many little things.
So then is mastering then? I'm trying to separate out the mastering piece, and I've had people try to explain it, and I just always miss just that little piece of what that is. Like, is it already the song's created, and then they try and, like you're saying, like pull the sounds out to make sure you can hear them, or what is like?
It's like the not even 5% last step. It's like maybe the 1%. Like mixing is the bulk of it. It's just getting everything to sound good together and have your levels all right and everything hitting at nice levels so you're not peaking and having distorted sounds. But then mastering is for when you're getting it ready for streaming services. They handle it differently, and it's not going to sound the same as off your laptop as on a mastering service. So
is it just the actual like technology that they have allows them to do different things?
It's just getting them to industry standards, and so it's kind of on a level playing field with all songs.
Right. So would you say that you master your own songs, but you just can't master like these guys that are paid professionally to do it and have the skills to do it?
Yeah, Hello, it was mastered by me.
Right.
And it sounded good, but I mean, to the normal person, you might not tell the difference.
Because when you listen to it, I was like, oh, I rematched because I love that fucking tune. To be fully honest with you, not to suck your dick the whole time, but I really love that tune. And I was like, oh, I remastered it. I'm like, yeah, that sounds the same. Still love it, but like, I couldn't tell the difference. But where I'm curious with you is like, is it just the actual skills and equipment that he has, or was there stuff that, say Hello, you did it yourself, you mastered it, then you let him master it and you listen to it. Did you learn lessons in listening to what he did versus what you did that you can now apply going forward when you do it yourself?
No,
or is it like he just has shit you don't got?
Yeah, I think so. And he's just got experience. That's the thing.
For sure.
He's done it forever.
Mm-hmm.
So
that makes sense.
And I'm not sure. I think he does it with analog equipment, which is like the actual faders and like all the studio equipment. When I was mastering it, it was just all digitally and with plugins that you buy on the internet and, move from there. So
yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So then is that something where it's just kind of, I would imagine the biggest thing holding you back is just financial. Do you want to pay this really expensive guy to master your songs, or is it worth it just to kind of put out your own? Do you think like going forward, you're always going to do that now with your songs, like send them out and get mastered? Or do you think that's something that you want to try and take in-house eventually?
I probably will, honestly, just because it saves a lot of time. It's mastering. I find mixing and mastering is a big portion of my time because that's the part I'm not the greatest at. And instead of taking that time to try and get better, I just want to keep working on music and have someone else do it for me for now.
That makes
sense. Once I have a catalog of music out, then I think I'll take more time to actually get good at it, like seriously good at it.
And is that something where you can like find someone to master it for you, but where you can go there and kind of watch how it works and kind of learn from it too?
Yeah, for sure. If I'm sure in the city like Edmonton, there's definitely got to be some studios where there's engineers there and I could go in and work with them on it and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't do it justice like watching on YouTube. Like you can learn, but it's not the same as being with someone, I assume. And I haven't been yet, so I want to.
Oh yeah, that's good. Is there anything else kind of in that vein of skills that you want to bring in, or people that you want to sit with and shadow with to like bring on new skills into your toolkit, like mastering? Is there anything else kind of in this whole music thing that you think you have room to grow on, or like that?
Yeah, there's always room to grow. So I think probably right now I want to focus on performing. I want to get some feedback on that, and it's something I've only done once. So I've got a long way to go there, and any tips or advice I can get from people who've done it for years would be great.
So how do you seek that stuff out? Is there people that you're talking to already that just like kind of local guys from the scene that you ask about tips like that, or is there maybe some bigger guys you reach out to, like social media? How does that work?
On Instagram or things, I'll just try and DM people. Not always they're not going to answer, but few people have answered and gave some helpful advice, or still going back to YouTube, just watching. I find that I learn from just watching, and I've watched hundreds of videos of different performers and how they draw in a crowd and how they work it. So
yeah, that's awesome. And it's funny because there's almost those two sides of learning, right? You can do so much work on that side where you're watching and you're taking these things in, but then there's also a side of just getting familiarized of when to use these tools. Like when do you need to draw the crowd, and when to read the crowd too, about when you're losing them, when you need to hit them right. Because I hear people talk about even like set lists and stuff and changing it up. Like one of my favorites is John Mayer, right? I'm a huge John Mayer fan, like way too obsessed with him. But he has such a huge catalog, and he's so experienced on the stage that he can read crowds and he'll know, okay, I'm kind of, this is what song I need to bring him in. And he's crafting the experience in the moment with the crowd, kind of having a conversation with them. And that's where I think that experience side comes in, is you can learn all the tips and tricks, but it's about putting them all together and finding out when you need them and how to read the crowd to know, is it time to, get everyone fired up with a front kick, or is it, time to maybe pull the stool out and do a little bit of a slower one or something kind of like that.
Yeah,
so
I think experience is just the best way to learn for that thing. Like 100%. I don't think you can watch all the videos you want and get all the advice you want, but if you're not doing it, you're not actually learning it, because you just need to go out and do it and fail a few times and maybe just live in the experience
for sure.
Take it.
For sure. Speaking of that, any time you chase a dream like this, I mean, I've talked to lots of people and had this exact sentence said to them, or question asked of them. You know, there's lots of highs in it, and then, you know, like going on that trip, playing live. Has there been, you know, any lows with this journey of kind of times where it's been tough and kind of kicked you in the teeth a little bit? Yeah,
I would say I'm just sort of coming out of a low because I don't know. It's hard when you do something like that, and you know that's like you said, a super high, and then you just come back and there's nothing going on. It's like I don't know what to do or what to feel or how I should feel about it. So it's hard. And but you know, just like I said with my message, I'm just trying to stay positive. Keep my eye on the goal and keep going forward.
Yeah, keep grinding with it. And I think that's also good lessons to learn early too about that, of how this stuff feels. Cause I think some people build it up. They don't get those highs in the start, and they build this up for so long. They're going through those years of grinding, right? Doing the right thing, keeping that goal in mind, but they never get to experience the other side of it, right? One of the best ways I can put it, I had this ultra marathon runner on a couple of months back, and he was talking about, I asked him about after the race and, you know, your body, cause you run 200 miles, you're going to be just gone, right? And he said, you know what? It's not even the body. He said, obviously that too, but he said, it's the achievement of this big race he did and the low of not having something. And those, he said those couple days, those couple weeks after, and I imagine it'd be the same way, but I think some people fall into the trap of, they build this up of, I'm going to be, when I get to experiences, when I get to this level, I'm going to be happy. And they don't realize that, no, happiness is a constant up and down. You're always going to have those moments. It's probably good to, you know, have a couple of those, bring yourself back down to reality, hang out with the boys and say, right? You know, go to the golf course, crush a couple beers, see what real life, you know, it's not all over, and then do it again and go up and down that, so that you, through those ups and downs, it's a constant trajectory. You're not just kind of grinding down here and then expecting something else. I think that those are good lessons to know that too, right?
Yeah, it's a totally new lesson to me because, you know, most of my life has just been kind of a steady line, and that was a huge spike and then a huge spike right back down.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's a lot of new emotions, a lot of new feelings, and I'm just having to feel them and
but now's the time to do it when you're young, like you are, man. Like, feel those feelings, go through that shit, right? Do it now. Much better than fucking figuring that out at 35, man, or 40, right? Like that. And so many people go through that, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Everyone's path goes at different speeds, but I think that's awesome to see, right? Like, you know, and I feel that so much myself with this podcast over the last year and a half or whatever it's been. I'm doing just getting on a huge guest that you're just so excited about to do it. And then just, it's back to the next thing, the same day. And then it's these highs and lows that, and also just the loneliness of nobody else you're the only one that's experiencing these, right? Like most things, you know, you win the Stanley Cup, you got a whole team around. You're all going through these feelings. You know, you do something like this, it's so individual of something that you're chasing that it's hard to share with people, especially if you don't have maybe someone that has a similar occupation that can bring them through those same types of highs. It's hard to find people to commiserate with. And I'm curious, just to turn it back into a question, so I'm not just talking at you, which I have a great habit of doing, just talking at my guests and not ever asking a fucking question. Now I forgot my question. Oh, do you have a good set, like, you've already said you have a good group of friends that are really supportive of you. Do you have anybody that you can talk to that's maybe more in the industry or more understanding, or maybe even in a different industry, but can kind of share some of the highs and lows with you, so that you have somebody kind of to talk to that knows what you're going through at all? Yeah,
I talk a little bit to my manager, but other than that, no. Like,
and that's kind of what they're there for too, a little bit. Hey,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, just to take some of that pressure off. But other than that, it's hard talking to my friends, and I don't really actually talk to them about it because it's not really like they're going to understand anyways.
Exactly. And then you feel bad because you're like, oh, like this is
just dumping all this shit on
exactly you. Right. Oh man, you're speaking to my heart right now. I feel you so deeply. Yeah, no, but I think that's also something that comes, because that's something I've been thinking too of. I don't have, this big group of podcasts that I can talk about and commiserate about the highs and lows, but I know that that's going to come, right? That comes with inserting yourself in and chasing it, right? Like, I've been chasing this for a year and a couple months. That's not really all that long in the grand scheme of things. Usually it takes 5 to 10 years for something like this to kind of catch fire and to get there. And I know along the way, I'm going to meet these people. I'm going to create that circle of people I can commiserate with, and I'm going to learn from them. And I'm sure that's going to be the same with you. You're going to perform with some guys. You'll probably, get to know some other local guys that are kind of in a similar spot, and you can find those guys commiserate, and you can kind of keep the friends just to, bullshit and be normal around. You can keep kind of those things separated a little bit. Hey?
Yeah, that'll be great. Once I find people like that. But for now, I just got to stay strong on my
100%,
own.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, man, you're, I can't even tell you how much I'm feeling the exact same thing in so many ways. So then when you think about it, I love the mindset you got going into. I think that's, again, like I said, the only way you can do it when you're going on a journey like this is to accept that this could take a really long time. I have the belief that I can get there, but there's so much shit that's out of my control. If you want it, right? Anybody that chases something like this has got to know that there's going to be probably 90% of it is out of your control, but you got to work really fucking hard at that 10, right? And that's what you got to concentrate on. But understanding that, do you have anything kind of, in that, kind of a goal for 5 years, 10 years? Do you ever look down the road, or are you just so concentrated on right now of doing this? Or do you have kind of some loftier goals that you're kind of seeing out into the future with?
A big goal for me is 1 million streams over streaming services.
Cool,
so
eh?
I don't have a timeline. I would say maybe a 2-year timeline.
2-year, 1 million downloads, hey?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Let's go. That's awesome.
It's gonna be tough.
Well, I mean, I probably given you about 6,000 myself here, so I'm doing my part.
It's going
funny.
Steady right now, though, and that's only with the 3. So
and the more songs you get, the more streams.
And then it'll all just snowball once I do shows, build up a social media following. I think it'll be more attainable than I think.
Yeah, for sure. Especially you get out what you put in, right? If you're willing to grind and put in that effort to drag yourself further along that road, you'll get there faster.
Yeah,
right?
and especially if I'm not going to be going to school or I'll have the time to put into this, and I think it's doable for
sure. Kind of what I was talking about earlier of trying to find things that are maybe not directly equivalent of like getting practice podcasting, right? So I was brought up streaming. Is there anything that you think that could grow your brand or help the main goal of what you want to achieve, but is maybe in a different lane? Have you started looking at any kind of side gigs to go along with it? Like, anything like that? Like, I don't know if it's, maybe creating a TikTok account or whatever that is, or any of those. Have you ever, or are you just so focused on making music right now that you don't really have time for much else?
Well, I think, once I get the music, like, I think that's the main focus right now. But after I have all that, I think then it'll be TikTok. Just market that. But I think there needs to be more to be marketed than the 3 songs. And I think there needs to be more shows, more stuff like this, podcasts, whatever.
Start your own podcast. That's what you need to do. It's free. Yeah. It's free. If you ever need a hand, I'm here. I tell too many people to start podcasts. I think everyone should have one. After I started and seen what I get out of it, I just think it's perfect for anyone. I mean, especially somebody like yourself that is trying to grow something. I just find it's the most authentic way for people to come along the ride with you, right? Whatever you're chasing, it's probably pretty interesting, but it's hard for people. They always just get the very outside of it, right? They get the very surface level. But I found this with so many things like these MMA fighters, hockey players, all these people in these different industries, they have a podcast that goes along with it. And now they're on this crazy ride, and the fans of them that really want to follow with them, they can hop on that journey and go along with it. And I just find that so cool. And just for myself, I've got to experience that with a couple of young comedians that I started following their podcast with a couple of years ago. And they were pretty much, opening at that point, and now they're selling out big theaters and shit. And it's just so cool to know the in depth of them, like talking about the dark times of like the fucking, went out and like sold 10 tickets this weekend. They're bitching about it. And then 2 years later, they're doing something wild. It's just, it's a lot of fun to see. And that's, what's really cool too, is in 2 years, right? Like say you concentrate on music for 2 years, the game is changing. There might be some totally new thing, some VR thing we've never even heard of. That's the next thing that you might want to chase too. At that point, we just don't know, right? So it's almost a waste of your time to concentrate on those types of things too early. Just concentrate on what you can do. That's wicked, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, so you musical influences, Kanye, anybody that you see maybe less of their music and more of their style and kind of what they're doing, kind of more in that vein of what I was just asking about how they market themselves. Is there anybody that you see today that you think is doing a really good job that, like you said, you're going to concentrate on the music and get that, and then you'll work on the marketing side of it? But when you do switch to the marketing side, do you see anybody right now that you kind of want to emulate that you think is doing it really good? Like, I don't know. I always see Tekashi 6ix9ine in the news and some people like that.
He has his own thing though. I mean,
that's what he does. And apparently he's a super nice guy behind it all. Like it's all a big act, and like,
it's working for him.
It's working for him, right? Like, hey, I don't knock nobody's shit if it works.
Yeah. No, that's not going to be me.
No face tats in your future?
No.
All right.
Yeah. I would say I follow ASAP Rocky.
Yeah.
And I know he's into fashion. Like he's always, he's got his own, like he's just always wearing designer shit and stuff like that. So, he's I see him more for that than the actual music. But with that, he's getting a whole new fan base.
For sure. It all feeds into it. They all feed into each other.
Yeah. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. He doesn't even have to release music. It'll just bring that attention to him.
And I think that's the next step too, is people combining, because obviously you're going to have one thing that's your passion, that's your interest, right? And it might be music, but usually everybody has one or two things that's also a big passion of theirs, right? Like you had mentioned sports, right? Like if you wanted to do something with sports too at some point, where like you make your music in that, but you're also in the sports world where you commentate on some stuff, or like even just, have some sort of whatever the social media of that day is, TikTok or Instagram, whatever it is that goes on that. Right. Like you can find all these things that feed in. And that's what I feel like so many people are missing these days, is that disconnect of, I think people that have come up maybe close to our age and understand the internet a lot better, is it's not wasting your time. It might be a different venture, but as long as they feed together, right? Like you're just building yourself up. It's not as linear as I think some people that came up in a different age think it is, right? They just think if you step off this path of what you're chasing, you're not putting the time that you need to, but they all go together. And I think there's so many cool people that are teaching that lesson right now. Like you see, I'm a big MMA guy, so I'm always watching and stuff. But you see all these fighters that are just finding, right? Some guys it's fashion, some guys it's a podcast, but they're all just starting their own brand and just finding these ways to really level themselves up and not wait for anybody to come do it for them. They're not waiting for the company to come advertise them and put a bunch of money behind them. It's, no, grab the bull by the horns, figure it out yourself, and find what works for you, right? You might fail a couple times, you might look silly, but you'll figure it out.
I think another thing too, I see Twitch streamers and all that stuff, like video games, like you can make a career out of that. And I think even just to do it as something for fun, just to get some, like I said, from a different demographic to come see that you do music as well, and also watch you play video games. They get to see a little bit who you are as a person, more than just the music. I think that'd be cool to do.
And I think that's also really cool for the people that really love your music and fall in love with you for your music. This is another avenue where they get to see a different side of you as well, where they came for the music, but now they get this other extra thing of an artist they really like, right? Like if John Mayer was streaming video games right now, I'd be all over. I'd be watching it, right? Because I want to see a different side of him, right? And he had his own, he actually started this little like Instagram live TV show thing he was doing on Sundays for a while, and it was fascinating to me. Like I'm just listening to just to see different parts of these people that you idolize. I think that's really cool. But then you get the flip side of it too, is you're going to draw people in that were just cruising Twitch one day, find you and fall in love with you for a whole different reason, and then find that you do music, right? Like it's so nice how it works like that. Like that's something I'm thinking in my head is I want to, do a podcast, advertise at the end of the podcast and the intro, outro. Hey, I'm also streaming this, Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays or whatever, so that this will draw people over to my streaming, right? And play video games, and then in the video game have, a banner for the podcast and be advertising on the video. Hey, come listen to my podcast and stuff. And now you're feeling you're going to have people that find you from either side, but they both feed into each other and they both support and they both raise each other up. And then if at any point I want to add anything into that, it just goes right into that ecosystem where I already have two really good channels to talk about whatever is next, right? Whatever next venture you start.
Yeah. And even if people aren't watching it, or, that's not the point about it. If you love it, people will see that you love it, and eventually it'll catch on, and you can't fake it, and they'll see who you are as a person.
For sure. And I think that's something that goes into kind of that mindset of just believing in yourself, is just not caring of who all hears it and stuff. That's something for this podcast, right? Like I haven't advertised it at all. I just kind of put it up. Same thing. I just post on my Instagram every time. Just whoever sees it. It's great. It's spreading slowly by word of mouth, but it doesn't matter because I enjoy doing it so much. I enjoy actually doing these interviews and talking to people and learning so much that it doesn't matter if nobody ever saw them, because I know eventually people will see them, and I know that there's going to be a time where I have to flip that switch and really advertise it and try and grow it. But for now, I'm just concentrating on getting better at this, right? And failing while nobody's listening, right? Making my mistakes, saying dumb shit on here, forgetting what I was going to say in the middle of a conversation, right? I'd rather do that now when not many people are listening than, in a couple of years when I have that belief that there's going to be quite a few people listening, right? And I'd rather just go through that now. And I think that's what's good to have. Is it's hard to stick with that if you don't have that love to do it, even if nobody was listening, right? Like I'm sure you enjoy making music so much that, music a little different because you almost people have to hear music to enjoy it.
Yeah. But, even before though, like I wasn't releasing it. Like I just make it just for fun, just to listen for myself. But yeah, it is nice when others can enjoy it as well. It is,
hey? Yeah. You want to keep that balance because you don't want to lean into that side too much, but it's hard not to. And I think it's just dishonest not to acknowledge that part of it too. It is nice to have people hear, right? Like I definitely feel good on the episodes that get the big downloads. I always feel a little bit better, right?
Yeah, because when you're taking all that time and putting all that effort into it, it's nice to see that others enjoy it as much as you do. Or,
yeah. And it's hard to not feel that sting when you put all that work into it. And it's, like, I mean, again, podcasts and music, but sometimes I'll do them where I'm really proud of the conversation, but it's not with a bunch of people, right? Like, I know I could do an amazing conversation with somebody that nobody knows, and it'll, get so many downloads. I'll do one with another great conversation, but with someone from Slave here where people recognize the name, right? Like Drew Discover, right? Mm-hmm. I know that one's going to get tons of downloads. Still a great episode, but you need that belief in yourself to get you through those other ones of just, you know what, I know this isn't gonna get that many downloads, but I'm proud of what that content was, right? Like anybody could go listen to that. If ever, in the future, 10 years from now, somebody goes back and listens to that, I'm gonna be proud of that. And it's the same with the music, right? Like if you enjoy it and you're proud of what you put out, it doesn't matter if nobody listens to it, if people listen to it, or people find it 20 years later, because it doesn't matter. You're proud of it the whole damn time, right? Because you put that effort in, you made it what you wanted it to be, right?
Yeah.
That's wicked.
Yeah, it's just cool to do it. And the end goal will come eventually, but just good to enjoy it in the moment right now.
Yeah. The only way that end goal will won't come there is if you give up, or if you get too caught up on that end goal and that's all you focus on, right? There's the two ways you can go. So if you can keep right in the middle of those two, that's that sweet spot. Awesome. Well, that's just about an hour. I know you got you're a busy man. You got places to be, people to see. Anything that we didn't talk about? Anything that we missed? Anything big that we should cover before we hop off, my friend?
I don't think so. I just want to say thanks for having me, though.
Man, thanks for coming on. Like I said, I enjoy doing this so much. I've wanted to have you on for a while, and then when you put out more music, I was like, well, damn, now it's really time. So I think also when you drop the next tunes, we'll have to maybe do it again and just keep hopping on. Every time you release music, we'll come check in, see what you're up to there, see what new things have changed. We'll just follow along the ride.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah, I think it'll be lots of fun. I think it's just another avenue for people to get to know you with the tunes, and we'll probably maybe throw the links to all the tunes and the Spotify links in the episode, and hopefully get you a couple more downloads, close to that 1 million downloads.
Awesome.
Yeah, sound good?
Yeah,
awesome, sounds good. All right, thanks again, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And if you listened to the intro and, a little bit of my ranting shenanigans there, I hope you enjoyed that too. Sometimes the intros are my favorite part of doing these. No, that's a lie. I always enjoy the conversations, but I also enjoy the intros, I'll say. They're not my favorite part, but anywho, hope you guys enjoyed that episode. What I always forget to say, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on the social media, tell a friend. If one of the episodes speaks to you, maybe make a post about it, share it. That's how these things grow. It's just word of mouth. People check them out and the right people love it. Oh, Chloe came for a schnog. Oh, well, if you didn't hear the intro, that's my dog. I hope you guys have a wicked week. I hope you kick some ass. I hope, whatever thing is eating at you and you need to get done, I hope you get it done. Whatever's scaring you, I hope you take that risk. Whatever you're putting off, I hope you crush it. And I hope you get it done this week. So hopefully that's what starts you off. And other than that, have a great day, great week. I don't know. My brain is mush. I've had too much 4 a.m. nights and not enough sleep. But it was all worth it. And I would do it all again in a heartbeat. So hopefully I'll be more cogent and have a little bit more brain power on the next intro and outro. But we'll see. Because who knows? Maybe I'll have another weekend like I just had, and you'll be hearing it again come Sunday night at 10 o'clock, trying to get all this done to be released for tomorrow. I'm enjoying vacation. I don't know if you can tell. All right. Talk to you guys on the next one. Bye.